Hey, welcome back. I get a lot of comments regarding we're going to be seeing a lot of foreclosures hitting the market very soon. So I thought it'd be very timely to make a video or give you guys an update regarding mortgage delinquency rates as well as foreclosures. On top of that, equity in people's houses right now. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video here. I appreciate you guys watching this video and also hitting the like button. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. This is according to Black Knight. By the way, both these reports here are from Black Knight. They are a data analytics firm that basically support the real estate and mortgage industries here. So Black Knight reported on the 24th of August that foreclosure starts pulled back in July and still holding well below pre-pandemic levels, while early stage mortgage delinquencies edged slightly higher. So overall, the national mortgage delinquency rate edged up to 2.89% in July. This means that out of the mortgages that are out there right now, approximately 2.89% are basically behind in the mortgages, at least 30 days past due. This still remains about 14 basis points higher than the all-time record low that was set in May of this year. In other words, the rate right now at 2.89% is approximately 0.14 percentage points higher than the all-time record low that was set in May of this year. And meanwhile, loans that are at least 90 days or more past due, which are defined by serious delinquencies, but not yet in foreclosure, pulled back in July after worsening for the first time in 22 months last month in June. So what they're saying right here is that loans at least 90 days or more past due actually fell in July after increasing slightly in June, and that was the first increase in the last 22 months. In regards to foreclosures right now, foreclosure starts, which is basically the beginning phase of foreclosure right now, foreclosure starts actually decreased 25% from June, and we have a total of 17,700 starts or foreclosure starts. And this is about 55% below pre-pandemic levels for the month of July. Also, the total number of houses in foreclosure right now actually decreased slightly by 6,000 in July. And this is after the all-time record lows that we basically had last year because we had federal moratoriums in place regarding foreclosures and, of course, mortgage forbearance programs in which millions of people took advantage of. And by the way, stay tuned here in just a little bit because I'm going to be sharing the states that have the highest rates of delinquencies and also the lowest, of course, as well, because there are some very big differences. So let's go over this table right here. So take a look at this. Here's the overall delinquency rate in the US, again at 2.89%. That's 1.98% actually higher compared to last month, but down 30% year over year. And again, we have approximately 17,700 US foreclosure starts right now, at least for the end of July here. That's actually down 25% from June, but up a staggering 321% from last year or 1 year ago when we basically had moratoriums in place and a lot of forbearance programs that people took advantage of. So in other words, no big surprises. We have a huge increase year over year here. In the US, we also have approximately 1.5 million properties right now. They're at least 30 days past due, but not yet in foreclosure. That's an increase slightly from June by 32,000, but a huge decrease of 663,000 compared to 1 year ago. In regards to properties that are at least 90 days or more past due, and this is really the figure we really need to track because people who are at least 90 days or more past due basically at the greatest risk of foreclosure in the future, of course. So the number of properties at least 90 days or more past due, but again, not yet in foreclosure, is just under 600,000. That's a slight dip from June, but a huge decrease from 1 year ago. And by the way, if you guys haven't noticed here, this section right here is the 12-month trend for each of these metrics here. So for 90 days or more past due, but not yet in foreclosure, the red bar right here represents the 12-month high. The green bar here represents the 12-month low. So over the past 12 months, the number of properties at least 90 days or more past due has been decreasing. So right now we have a 12-month low. In regards to the number of properties in foreclosure, that represents about 184,000 properties, a decrease from last month, but an increase of 44,000 from a year ago. And as I mentioned, they provided the states that have the highest share of non-current mortgages. So those are these right here. These are the top 5 states by non-current percentage. In other words, the states that have the highest rates of delinquent mortgages right now. Mississippi actually led the nation at a 6.44% share of non-current mortgages. By the way, of course, the national average is 2.89%, so far above the national averages here but a decrease by 16% year over year. This is far less than the all-time record highs set back in October 2005. Look at that. Back in October 2005, the share of mortgages not current was 23%. Now it's only 6.44%. And also the all-time record low was set in March 2000, and that rate was 5.56%. So the rate right now is not too much higher than the all-time record low that was set approximately 22 years ago. And the state with the second highest rates of non-current mortgages was Louisiana at 5.75%, far less than the all-time record highs set in October 2005 when the share was 30%. I mean, can you imagine that? Basically, 3 out of every 10 mortgages back in October 2005 were not current on their mortgages, and now it's only 5.75%. Not too much higher than the all-time record low that was set in May of this year at 5.43%. And by the way, when looking at each of these states right here, the rates for July were not too much off the all-time record lows that was set in May 2022 for each of these 4 states right here. So those were the top 5 states with the highest shares of mortgages not current. But in contrast though, let's look at the lowest shares. So Washington State was actually the lowest at 1.71%. That was followed by Idaho at 1.74%, California, Colorado, and then Oregon. Also, take a look at these year-over-year changes. So each of these states decreased by over 20% compared to 1 year ago, which is basically moving in the right direction if we don't want to see a lot of foreclosures hitting the market in the months to come. Also, take a look at the all-time record highs. I find this interesting because let's look at Washington. Let's look at Colorado, actually. Colorado, the all-time record high for the share of mortgages not current was set in February 2010 at 8.54%. This is drastically different compared to Mississippi and Louisiana, both over 20% there. So the peak in Louisiana and Mississippi far lower than these other states right here. And another thing I noticed I also want to bring to your attention as well, when looking at the current rates as of July 2022, they're not too much off the all-time record lows that were set right here. So for example, Oregon is only about 30 basis points off, and also California is only off about 30 basis points as well. Black Knight also provides some insight regarding the top 5 states that have the highest share of mortgages at least 90 days or more past due. Mississippi actually led the nation again. They also led the nation right here by overall delinquency rates. But for 90 days or more past due, they led the nation again at 2.43%. The peak was actually in December 2005, though, at 10.18%. So Mississippi was in number 1 spot. That was followed by Louisiana, Alabama, Alaska, and then Maryland. And again, it's worth noting here, the year-over-year changes here is drastically different right now, or at least of July 2022 compared to July 2021, because each of these states here decreased by over 40% year over year. In other words, a strong improvement compared to July of 2021. All right, so that was an update regarding mortgage delinquencies and also foreclosures. Comment below if you guys have any questions regarding that. I made this video because I get a lot of comments saying, oh, foreclosures are coming very, very soon. But when you look at the actual data here, I mean, the overall national delinquency rate at 2.89% is not too much off the all-time record lows that was set just a few months ago. So I'm kind of scratching my head regarding that. In my personal opinion, we would have to see a huge pullback in the labor market. In other words, a lot of people getting laid off from their jobs, which would cause a lot of people to potentially not being able to afford their mortgages, which of course would increase delinquencies and therefore foreclosures in the months to come. But as of right now, overall national delinquency rates as well as foreclosures still remain very, very low. All right, so changing gears slightly, let's talk about equity in people's houses according to Black Knight. Home equity continued to climb overall in Q2 of this year, setting a 10th consecutive all-time record high. But Black Knight reports that we may be nearing an inflection point though, because some of the nation's most equity-rich markets here report declines amid increasing headwinds. So Black Knight looks at tappable equity. This is defined by the amount available for homeowners to assess while still retaining at least 20% equity in their houses. So in other words, this is the amount of equity in people's houses that they can get and still retain at least 20% equity after doing a cashed out refi, for example. This hit another record high, climbing to $11.5 trillion, up $500 billion or 5% from Q1 of this year and up $2.3 trillion or 25% compared to the same time period last year. However, though, equity growth slowed though because we're seeing some moderation in home price growth, and also some of the hottest markets across the nation here actually faced home equity declines due to decreases in home prices. And by the way, if you missed my previous video, I talked about some cities in California, especially in the Bay Area, where home prices decreased on a month-over-month basis, but also on a year-over-year basis. So if you haven't checked out that video, take a look at that video I posted just a couple days ago. Anyways, Black Knight reports here that 11 of the nation's 50 most equity-rich markets posted declines in Q2 of this year, all of which were in the western US, including 8 in the state of California alone. Therefore, 8 out of these 11 markets where equity decreased in Q2 were located in California. And here are the cities within the US that reported a decrease in home equity in Q2 of this year. That was actually in San Jose, California, which experienced the biggest pullback in home equity, falling $55 billion in the quarter, which is down 12% year over year. And here are the cities that saw an equity decline in Q2 of this year. San Jose, California, which is actually just south of San Francisco, of course, actually reported the strongest pullback, with Tappable Equity falling $55 billion or 12%. In second place was in Seattle, falling by 10%, San Francisco falling by 5%, Los Angeles by 3%, and then San Diego declining by 5% for the quarter. And check this out because this is pretty insane. At the end of Q2 of this year, the average US homeowner had $216,900 in tappable equity. In other words, home prices would have to come down drastically in order for these people to be underwater on their mortgages. Also, remember how I talk about on the channel here about a lot of people are not listing their houses for sale because they have rates of less than 3% and also far less than current rates at 6% right now. And that's causing a lot of people to not list their houses for sale. So take a look at this because Black Knight actually touches on this. Out of all the equity that people have in their mortgages right now, approximately 73% of that, or 73% of these borrowers here, have mortgages below 4%. Half of these have rates below 3.5%. And therefore, borrowers may be reluctant to access their equity via refinancing. In other words, why would you do a cash out refinance right now when rates are about 6% if you have a rate of less than 4%, for example? As a result, for people who need equity at their houses, rather than doing a cash out refi, they would rather do a HELOC, for example, or home equity line of credit. And also in regards to refis, take a look at this because they are absolutely right that a lot of people are very reluctant to do a cash out refi right now because rates are so high. So according to the Mortgage News Daily, or I should say the Mortgage Bankers Association, as of August 24th, for the week ending August 19th, refis were down 83% compared to the same week 1 year ago. And by the way, these are mortgage applications for refis, again, falling 83% from the same week 1 year ago. So comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you guys got any value out of today's video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.